Hi everyone, it's Kristen from k.becca, and today I'll be showing you how to make these snazzy foiled place cards. I'll be designing my tags in Silhouette Studio, and I've opened two files that I'll be working with for the project. First is this blank place card cut file, which you can download for free over at k.becca.com. I'll include the link to the download in the area below the video. The second cut file that I have open is the Skinny Stencils Set 1 that are available in my shop. I'll also include the link to those below. The set has 3 designs, and I'll be using the dots design for this project. But instead of cutting and using it as a stencil, I'm going to use it as a graphic element on my place cards. So first I'm going to select the group of stencils and go to the Objects menu and select Ungroup to ungroup them. You can see that when I do this, boxes pop up around each of the individual stencils. I'll click on the artboard to deselect everything, and then I'll click on the bottom stencil, the dots design, to select it. Then I'll copy it by pressing Ctrl+Command+C, and I'm going to go over to the file with the blank place card and press Ctrl+Command+V to paste the stencil into the file. I don't want the rectangular border of the stencil in my design, so I'm going to ungroup the stencil file again to separate the border from the dots pattern. And that's the Object menu and then Ungroup. You'll see that when I do this, another box will appear around the dots area. I'm going to select the outer rectangle and press backspace to delete it, and just the dots will be left. Next, I'll select the dots and move those down over the place card. You can place them however you like, but for this I don't want any of the dots on the back of the place card, so I'm going to line them up right below the score line on the card. I don't need any of the dots that fall outside of the border of the place card either, so I'm going to delete those. First, I'll select the dots and ungroup them, which is Object Ungroup. You'll notice little boxes appear around all of the individual dots when I do this. Next, I'll select the dots that I don't need and delete those. If you miss one here or there when you select, you can just delete those separately. If you want to, at this point you could also move individual dots around and customize the pattern. Next, I'm going to personalize the place card by clicking the Type tool from the left menu and choosing a font from my font list. I'm using a brush font called Hartwell for this, and I'll include the link to it below the video. I'm typing out a name, and the font size is a bit too large for the card, so I'll reduce the size over in the Text Style menu on the right until it's a better fit. Then, I'm selecting the place card base and pressing Shift and clicking on the name that I just typed. Now that I have those two elements selected, I'm going to click on the Align menu at the top right of the screen, and I'm going to click the Align Center option to center the name on the place card. You'll notice that outlines of some of the letters in the name overlap each other. If we were die cutting the name, then we'd want to weld these letters together, but we're going to be printing the name, so we don't need to make any adjustments for this project. I'm selecting all of the individual dots and grouping them here, which is Ctrl+Command+G. It just neatens things up and makes them easier to move around should I need to do that at any point. While the group of dots is still selected, I'll press Shift and click on the name to select both elements. Then I'm going to open the Fill Color window from the top right menu, and I'm going to give both the dots and the name a black fill. I want to make sure that neither of these elements is cut, so now I'm opening the Cut Settings window from the top right menu and selecting the No Cut option. When I do this, you'll notice that even though both elements still have a red border, it's much more subtle as opposed to the lines on the place card, which are cut lines and are much bolder. Next, I'm going to open the Registration Marks window from the top right menu and select Type 1 since I'm using a cameo. Then I'll select all of the place card elements and reposition them just inside the registration marks. You want to make sure that anything you want to print stays inside the marks or it won't print properly or it'll be cut off. I want to make a bunch of place cards with different names, so I'll copy the original design, which is Ctrl+Command+C, then I'll paste it, which is Ctrl+Command+V, and move it beside the first card. I can change the name by double-clicking on the text to activate it, then typing the new name. I'll click on the artboard to deactivate the text, and I'll center the new name by selecting both the text and the place card, and you can press Shift+Click to select multiple elements. Then I'll open the Align window and choose Align Center to align that name in the center of the card again. I can fit 4 place cards in one file, so I'll set up the other 2 cards in the same way as the first 2, and then I'll be ready to print. Okay, so I've just printed the place cards and I'm ready to foil them with the Minc. I've found that you get much better results when you foil before you cut, and I talk more about that in another video. A link to that should be popping up on your screen right about now. Long story short, foil before you cut. It really does give better results. I'm going to turn on the Minc and adjust it to a number 4 heat setting, which is what I seem to get the best results with when I'm using cardstock. And speaking of cardstock, you want to use the smoothest cardstock that you can find. And you want to choose a weight that's 80 pounds or less. That's what I've gotten my most consistent and best results with. For this project, I'm using Hammermill 80-pound weight color copy digital cover paper, which I saw recommended by Carrie Bradford, and I've been getting great results with it. It's actually really well priced too. At the time that I filmed this, it was less than $13 for 250 sheets on Amazon.com. The foil that I'm using for this project is the ThermoWeb Deco Foil in the color Pink Melon. I really like the Deco Foil because it's a little bit thicker seaming and it's a little bit easier for me to work with and cut with scissors than some of the other brands. It comes in these long rectangular sheets and you get, I think it's 5 or 6 in one tube. I'm cutting large enough pieces of the foil to cover the printed elements on the place cards. Then I'll place the foil-covered cardstock into a carrier sheet and run it through the Minc. Make sure that none of the foil is covering any of the registration marks. I don't know what would happen if you did foil a registration mark, but I think that the reflectivity of the foil would probably mess up the registration process when you go to cut it on your die cutting machine. What I did not think about before I ran this through the Minc was the fact that the toner from those uncovered registration marks was going to melt onto my carrier sheet. I'd suggest cutting some regular printer paper or parchment paper into squares that are large enough to cover the marks to prevent the toner from getting onto your carrier sheet. But if you forget like I did, you can put some rubbing alcohol on a cotton ball and remove the toner from the carrier sheet by rubbing it off. After that, the carrier sheet will be good as new again. After I'm finished foiling the place cards, and ooh, they're so pretty and shiny, I'm going to cut them out with my Cameo. Even though some of the toner melted off of the registration marks when I did the foiling, it didn't cause any problems at all during the registration process on the Cameo. When I'm finished cutting the place cards, all I need to do is fold them along the score lines and they are ready to go. This would be a great project to do if you're making place cards for a wedding or maybe a big anniversary party or even a holiday party. And you can customize them in all sorts of ways, with different graphics, patterns, fonts, and foil colors to match the occasion. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you'd like to see more Minc and foil style craft projects, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll tune in again soon.